Okay, everyone. Hi. I think we can get started. And I'm Freya from City Science Network Taipei team. It's a pleasure to welcome the attendees to the 2021 City Science Summit, co-hosted with MIT City Science and Taipei Tech, and all the amazing members from City Science Network around the world. And in this summit, we'll discuss issues about urban science, policy and decision making, social science, rapid urbanization, and more. Okay, so the very first workshop is hosted by City Science Network Hamburg team. They have been working towards the ideas about co-creation in different projects that design and implement solutions at the interface between social and technical sciences. So for above mentioned issues and more, I would like to welcome Emmanuel Schipper, the leader of this workshop, also the senior researcher from HafenCity University Hamburg, to first give us a guide. So let's welcome Emmanuel. Hi, Emmanuel.
Hello, everybody. Hello from Helsinki today. And good to have you here and to see these faces. Do you hear me?
Yeah, it's
okay.
good.
Sounds good.
You sound good.
Okay. Thank you. Just a short introduction, and then we are just running into the presentations. So this is a workshop that we somehow try to collaboratively bring together, and we did not really run it through completely together, and we also nobody knows what I'm going to say now. So if somebody thinks that's completely not true what I'm going to say, you can also then change it and give your opinions on that. So something that we wrote, it is from participation to co-creation, and this is a move that we are following, I think sometimes now already, that we are starting with this fancy word of participation that we started, and we see that it is maybe not enough to do that, and that we need to go much more into action. Also, if you think that we just have what we heard about a decade to change our new models in the cities, for cities, and new urban models. So participation is maybe not enough for going there, and we need the creation and the co-creation of all of us. And that's why we foster much more into tools and projects that are not only just sharing informations, they're always also sharing informations, but not only, but are going to ask for more co-creation, collaboration in all of the tools. And that's what we are going to see and discuss today. And we also started to use this work of course, of the multi-stakeholder collaboration, and we use that also as a research area. Why do we use that as a research area? Because of course, we are trying to do tools and projects that foster that, but still maybe we are not really used to that, and we do not know exactly everything. And with every project, a lot of new questions are coming up. And just hearing the introduction, having some thoughts, I also want to share with you some of these short thoughts. We were talking about a lot in the last years, and we need to talk even more and do things about getting climate neutral. What does this really mean? Then we are thinking about, yes, we need to be carbon neutral, and we already think that's a big issue already, and we are quite good if we are going carbon neutral. But I really would say this is maybe only half of the journey, because carbon neutral, it's only the thing that we flush the toilet in after we did our business. It's nothing. So we have to even to get more there and get even in a more positive way, and see that we are not only neutral, but get more in a positive part and give us something back, or take responsibility also for other parts. So let's go maybe in something that's called nature positive. And that's why I'm quite happy that the SDGs are there, because if you look at the SDGs, even if we are working in one of the SDGs, we will see that there are other SDGs that we are far away, and every person and every institution, every city and every country is a kind of a development party that needs to do something in these SDGs. And The third thing that we are also fostering and looking at that is that we, of course, not only should talk about getting carbon neutral or look at the climate. I think this is I'm afraid that when you are narrowing that down, even if it's so important, it could be that we lose track also on other important things like the people, the humans, and the fundamental rights that we need to give to each of the persons in everywhere. So we should always have these different perspectives together, and we should, if you're going into a regeneration, resilience, and city, and maybe you should also think about economy much more, and go into things like a circle economy, and all in this we have to build in 1 decade. And all these perspectives we have always to shift and to work together in different layers. That's why we think a multi perspectives and multi-stakeholder approach is much more valuable than just a binary or a one-dimensional way. So this is just for the engines, and we want to look in this workshop in 3 different projects that we have and how we foster these approaches in these projects, and then have in breakout discussions your ideas on that. And we are going to start because there was quite an urgent meeting went in. So we are already changing our small program, and we are starting with the Cosi program. So what we are doing is we get about 10 minutes presentations, and we will show you the very fresh movies we did from the project. It's a kind of opening night of these movies that we did. And we will show you first these 3 projects and give you some questions on what we are going to discuss with you on this project. And then we have 2 circles of breakout discussions and see what we will bring together. So the first will be Cosi. I just say it down and I will let you know later again. And then we will talk about the CUT project and then on PaKOMM. And I just want to hand over the screen now to Johanna and Daniel. I don't know who is taking it over, but please take it and present to us Cosi.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm taking over. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you, Freya. We will start with the video. So I hand over to Daniel to share his screen, and we will see a short introduction via video.
Imagine being an urban planner in the city of Hamburg. You need to think many years ahead in order to create timely plans, while the parameters in the city are constantly changing. If you want to provide sufficient social infrastructures, such as kindergartens, you need an early warning system that tells you in advance where these infrastructures will be most needed in the coming years. My name is Johanna Fleischer. I'm a sociologist and designer and specialized in urban research and science and technology studies. For Cosi, I help to evaluate user experiences, improve usability, and design new features and capabilities through data analysis. In this context, I'm also writing my PhD thesis on the development of digital tools as part of digital urban twins.
I'm Daniel Schulz. I'm the project lead and a developer for Cosi. My background is in architecture and software development. So I work on designing new data-driven tools to aid planners and the public alike to make better evidence-based decisions and help collaborate on complex tasks. The basic idea of Cosi, the cockpit for social infrastructure, is to provide a web-based geoinformation system that draws in real time from the Urban Data Platform and gives access to information for urban planning. It is not a program that in the end prints out the optimal solution for urban planning through algorithmic processing. Rather, it provides insights and opportunities to work with the data at different stages of a project's development, and in particular, to test different solutions through collaborative work. To achieve this flexibility in the application, the tool has three main functionalities: visualization, analysis, and simulation.
Prior to Cosi, planners in Hamburg had to approach each district administration individually to request the data they needed for their plans. At the same time, administrations had become very cautious about growing privacy concerns and legal issues. Cosi aims to network the data needed and prepare it for better access and quick analysis, especially for social planning. Thus, as a city planner, you can easily access the latest city data through Cosi. Responsibility for these data sets is clearly defined. Errors can be reported to the appropriate parties. Thus, the retrieved data becomes a trusted source and very valuable to generate knowledge for planning purposes.
With the first two functionalities, visualization and analysis, already implemented, we are now focusing on simulation. With these three steps, we hope to build a circular monitoring tool that allows for in-time determination of demand, delivers quicker analysis and iteration, and can help to facilitate reliable, evidence-based, and transparent planning processes. In return, the ever-growing pool of public urban data, integrated data infrastructure, and increasing resolution through real-time sensors and shorter reporting intervals help us to evaluate the effects of realized projects and keep track of new developments for public planners, researchers, and the public alike.
Today, Cosi is already an integral part of Hamburg's spatial data infrastructure. And we at the CityScienceLab and the Geoinformation Agency, LGV, are working closely with a growing number of departments to expand the platform's capabilities. In addition, we plan collaborations with other CSL projects like DPAS and the Connected Urban Twin.
Yes, that was our short video introduction. Hello now in live from my side. Yeah, we're now going to switch to our short presentation of Cosi in live. And I want to present this part in two parts. So first we're going to look through Cosi, and then we want to discuss some thoughts with you about extension or broader view on the topic of cockpits for urban data. So let's start and have a look at Cosi. Daniel already shared his screen. And what we want to show you is this three functionalities that we talked about in the video. It's visualization, analyzing, and simulating. And we choose to pick the example of schools. So Daniel is going to pick the subject topic for schools now, so that we can see how schools are distributed. And this is the first thing we can do, and we can see now with the eye how the distribution of schools is in the area. And now we can go a step further with the visualization and put this into relation with the demographic data. And Daniel, can you switch on the color layer? Great, thank you. So what we now see is a layer which shows us the population in the area, but we can define what kind of population. So we can choose the population under 18. And we can also calculate different population kinds, like making a calculation for the population under 18 with the population until 6. And then we have the pupils population or estimated pupils population. And that is what Daniel is doing right now, so that we know how many pupils are in these areas. As you can see, this is our dashboard where we can also see all the regional statistical data. And you can also see on the map that there's different area types, like we have the district, we have boroughs, and we have very small blue lines. because as a city administrator, you would have access to statistical data, which is for around about 1,000 people. But of course, for security reasons, yeah, we can't show this here. So this is for privacy reasons. Yeah, what you can see too is our data visualization, and we can also show different parts. So this is the first step. We can visualize what is already there. So now we go to the next step. We now have seen what's in our area, and now we want to do analysis on that. So can you just open the analysis drop-down menu? So you see a whole range of tools here, and we have a facility overview, citizen requests, accessibility analysis, filters, and so on and so forth. There's a lot to do, but we want to show you 3 things here. We want to show you how to filter the schools, because now we want to see all the high schools, the gymnasium. And the second thing we want to do is make accessibility analysis. And the third would be a supply analysis, where we just skip through it so that you get an impression on how this is done. Yeah. So now we choose what time pupils will need to walk through to their schools. And what you see now is the accessibility analysis. So you see the green area is about 5 minutes to school, and it's getting redder and redder as longer as it takes from there. And this is a routing service that we use to do this measurement. All right, maybe the last thing to show could be a supply analysis, so that you see how many pupils come per school. So and that comes in a table where you can see this is like, yeah, normal math, where you can see the numbers and how the distribution goes. And now we come to the third part that we can do here, which is simulation. Let's say we detected some gaps inside our distribution, and now we want to see where we can put schools to make this distribution better and make accessibility easier in the area. So we jump to simulation. And there we can, what you can do here is 2 things. You can choose to build new facilities, so we can create a new school, or we can also create new housing. But now we want to do to create a new school. And what is Daniel is doing here is building a new scenario, and now he's creating a new school, and he can copy that from a given school, or he can create it completely from scratch. He can choose a location wherever he wants to put it, and then you can see the new school appear when he's hitting the button for creating a new facility. Yeah, you can change a whole lot of things there. You can see a whole lot of attributes that you can use for that. And there it is. Now we have simulated a new school in the center of Hamburg. And if we run the analysis again, the accessibility analysis, we can see that the facility is taken into account. So you see, this is really like simulating in a very easy and quick way. Yes, that was this. And now I want to come to part 2, where I want to start a little bit, yeah, of dreaming with you. You've just seen our cockpit made for the demands of social infrastructure, for planners. And if we think the tools as a cockpit for, let's say, trees and plants, or for insects, animals, our pets, whatever, we might use the same tools as you've seen them before, but we must think of so much more data that we should make available in our cockpit. For example, if I think this tool from the perspective of trees, I would be interested in, for example, in percolation potential, in ground sealing. I would like to know how the water is distributed. I would like to know airflows, air quality, maybe soil quality, all kinds of this. And yeah, you see, we just put some layers in here. When we made up that example to see what we can show you here. Dani, do you want to say something about this layer here that you put on?
Sure, just briefly. So in contrast to the other data that you saw before, these layers here are mere raster maps. We can still access the data when clicking on a feature. So here now I would see every single tree in the city of Hamburg, as well as the percolation potential on the ground, or how much ground is sealed on another layer. And as we saw with the schools, we could potentially use all this kind of data to run the same analyses. So our overarching philosophy when designing Cosi was to be as data agnostic as possible. I mean, obviously, our prime interest, also coming from the administration, was the planning of social infrastructure, but we always try to find how the best option to cover as many topics as possible and as many requirements with the same sort of functionalities, so that we can easily extend it to other urban contexts and also other planning areas.
All right, thank you. I think we have to come to an end here, but our question for you would be, what topics and perspectives come to your mind? What would be an interesting subject in your cities to make available in a cockpit for urban data? Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Johanna, and thank you, Daniel, and all you other guys. We are 96 at the moment, what is great. Please keep in mind that we are going to talk in about 30 minutes in the breakout rooms, and you have the possibilities to come back, especially to these questions. We will post the questions again, and we will discuss about that topic. That was Cosi with Johanna and Daniel. Thank you very much. We are now jumping from the collaboration between all these numbers that we already have, social infrastructure and trees, into another topic, and we will see what is the collaboration and the multi-stakeholder approach here. It is the project of CUT, and we have at least, I think, 4 persons here. It's a boy group. Here it's the boy group from Hamburg. It is Holger and Michael and Martin and Rico. So please take the floor.
Yeah, hello everybody. Thank you, Emmanuel, for the introduction. We also have a video we prepared and would like to share with you. And yeah, this is what I'm going to do now. Just sharing my screen. Fingers crossed that it works. And yeah, let's see what happens.
Imagine a city where all citizens have access to all the information they need at the tip of their fingers. A representation of the urban in virtual space that helps to get an overview on how cities function and to understand interventions in the urban twin can help to improve urban planning and participation processes by using urban data and profound visualizations and simulations of cities. My name is Rosa Tonaik. I'm a storyteller and urban designer. In the Connected Urban Twin project, I'm sharing the lead for citizen co-design with my colleague Michael.
My name is Michael Ziel. I'm an architect and urban planner. As lead researchers for citizen co-design, we are mostly involved with the planning, conducting, and evaluation of a series of transdisciplinary experiments. The project's full name is Connected Urban Twins, urban data platforms and digital twins for integrated urban development. It seeks to create digital representations of cities, including their urban fabric and ongoing processes in real time, like traffic flows or power consumption. We are looking for ways to create such twins in cooperation with citizens to represent also social processes, which often are overlooked in twin technologies, but are relevant for integrated urban development. For example, traffic patterns of unpaid care workers.
As we are working with a transformative research method, we carry out several real-world experiments to test digital tools, to better understand citizen needs, to bring them in dialogue with city administration, and to encourage all actors involved to make use of the new tools that we develop. This way, we are aiming for a sustainable impact on neighborhoods, cities, and, last but not least, the connected urban twin technology.
We are working in close cooperation with the city administrations in the project partner cities of Hamburg, Munich, and Leipzig, as well as the chair of geoinformatics at the Technical University of Munich. Furthermore, we are going to collaborate with software developers and to involve several citizen groups in our experimental research settings.
Right now, we are setting out the research agenda. Although we are still at the beginning of the project, it's our aim to run a first development sprint and to carry out the first real-world experiment in 2021. This one is going to be about the needs of unpaid care workers and their everyday mobility. Within the next years, 5 more of such experiments are going to follow on different topics. These shall serve as milestones on our way to better understand, develop, and implement representations of the social in digital urban twin technologies.
Machst du weiter, Rico?
Yes, so thank you, Michael, for showing the video. My name is Rico. I'm researching in the application of modeling and simulation, machine learning and artificial intelligence in the context of the urban twin. But let me shortly talk about what is actually an urban twin, because it gained a lot of traction recently in the field of urban development. It comes along with a lot of promises for sustainable urban development, with open data, the creation of what-if scenarios, similar to what also Daniel and Johanna just showed you. Right now, the concept of twins is widely applied in industrial production, but they also make their way into the urban, which is a much more complex, adaptive, and dynamic system that we already know that we cannot really represent to its full extent and complexity. So we do have detailed 3D models and many sensors which we can show in real time in a twin. But if we want to use such technologies for the pressing SDGs and for sustainability, simply predicting traffic flows or air quality, it does not really seem sufficient. So we need to find new modeling approaches and how to create these what-if scenarios that take into account the complexity of urban systems. We need to put the uncertainties up front in such models, and we need to be open about them and open about our own assumptions. And we also need to find ways in how to reflect multiple perspectives in the model that we build. So together with working on innovative use cases for modeling and simulation, and with testing out new technologies in the digital twin environment, we as the CityScienceLab in Hamburg focus our research on how to include all sorts of actors, social data, and also the needs of typically underrepresented groups into the twin. And that's actually reflected in the very name of the project, which is Connected Urban Twins. But what do we actually mean by connected, Holger?
Hi, Rico. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Holger. I'm leading the research team here in the Connected Urban Twin project. And the Connected Urban Twin has a twofold view. So on one side, it means like the connection of the actors within the project. So connecting public officials with researchers or decision makers with experts on participation, for example, and the actors in Hamburg with the actors in Munich and Leipzig, which are the partner cities, just to name a few connections. But also the perspective beyond the project to connect to the outside. So the goal is to connect with citizens, with initiatives and all kinds of public actors to create and co-create the technology that is running the city twin, so to create it for the people, but also with the people. So we call that whole landscape like multi-stakeholder collaboration, which is one of the main research areas that we are focusing on in CityScienceLab Hamburg. And which leads me to a question that I want to ask my colleague Michael. How are all these diverse dimensions of collaboration connect to our research? Michael.
Yeah, well, Holger, as you already heard in the video I just showed you, we are applying a transformative and experimental research method. And the basic idea about this is to do both researching and fostering a sustainable transformation of urban systems here in Hamburg. As the city of Hamburg is our spatial frame where we observe and reflect the impacts of the real-world experiments that we are going to carry out. Such experiments can be, for example, workshops with administration staff, citizens, politicians, and practitioners to test out new tools. And this way we can identify needs of the actors involved as well as technical challenges. By doing so, the overall goal is always to gain transformation knowledge. This is knowledge about how to foster transformation processes with the help of digital twins. And as we are convinced that this is not only a technical but also a social challenge, we set up the following 3 research questions. First, how do we have to embed digital twins into urban development and governance processes to foster a sustainable transformation of urban systems? Second, how do we have to design and implement digital twins to support agents of a sustainable transformation? And last but not least, how can we promote multi-stakeholder collaboration and democratic decision-making for a sustainable transformation? So, Martin, as this was rather an abstract description, could you please give us a more detailed case example?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Hi, everybody. I'm Martin. I'm a researcher at the CityScienceLab, and I'm responsible for the impact evaluation and the digital twin project. As the project title already indicates, the project is intended to contribute to the integrated urban development. On the one hand, this is done by creating a digital representation of a city with the urban fabric and ongoing processes in real time. But for holistic perspective in the sense of integrated urban development, it is also important to represent the social processes in a city. But in the context of twin technologies, the representation of social processes is often an overlooked and neglected afterthought. Therefore, we understand a connected urban twin as a means to make overlooked social processes, structures, and networks in a city visible. For that, our first case deals with mobilities of care and asks about the mobility patterns and mobility needs for formal and informal care workers. So, at the end, we have 2 questions for you for the later workshop in the My Report. The first question is to you, what aspects of a city should be represented within an urban twin and why? Maybe pets because they are underrepresented but have a lot of needs like green spaces, or animals in general like all insects or rats, or the sewage system. What would you say? And our second question is how to use such tools within sustainable urban development and participation following the SDGs. Which aspects of sustainability should we prioritize? Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation of CAT and this good questions, good research questions. It's always good to know and get reminded that what we do is also a kind of research that is not only developing tools, but also having questions and having questions that can and looking for answers that could maybe not only used for that kind of project, but maybe are bigger than that. And thank you also that you made the transformation now from plants over to animals. And I guess I will now heading to PaKOMM, where it is somehow also about plants, but also about people. So we will come back also to this CAT project again in the Miro board. And now I have to do a lot of multitasking at the same time, taking my time, starting the presentation and letting you, where is that? Here we go. Here we go. Here we start. We don't start here. No. Wrong. We also start here. You don't see anything, right? That's good. Okay. Wait a second. We're coming. I need to change that to you. Here we go.
Emmanuel, if it's not working, I can try to share my screen again.
Is it working?
Yeah, now something's happening.
It looks good.
Good.
We can see it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, as we also saw already is that that we are not only trying to change things that are there or look at what happens already before, but that we always, of course, because we have to look into the future. So future literacy, I think, is a very important thing. And it also, if we go into future that nobody knows how it is, then we should always remember that it is not a prolongation of the past, and we can really take our hands and our brains and our emotions and everything to shape it. So it does matter, as Donna Horowitz says, what kind of stories we are telling, and it does matter what kind of future we have in our mind in order to shape the future. And I will talk a little bit about participatory planning and the digital co-creation if we go into parks. But first, I want to show you also the video, and it should start now.
Imagine the city of the future could not only be envisioned and experienced, but also shaped collectively. With augmented and virtual reality, urban planning is accessible regardless of the knowledge you have. You can work collectively on your ideas and experience your designs immediately. This project stands for urban planning that is not only productive, but inclusive, engaging, and fun. My name is Hilke Berger, and I'm a city scientist with a background in cultural studies. I am part of the PaKOMM team as an expert for collective urban design, public space, and participation. This joint research project combines the expertise of the CityScienceLab here at the HCU with the Research and Transfer Lab for Digital Reality of Hamburg's University of Applied Science and the G2 Lab at the HCU as well. Our case study is the development of a park on a former industrial site in Hamburg's Hammerbrook. We are lucky enough to have been able to team up with a local initiative called Hallo Parks. Since 2019, they are providing on-site concept work aimed at sustainable urban development, which takes into account the immediate neighborhood, as well as other stakeholders and municipal representatives. We are building a solution for multi-stakeholder planning workshops with mixed reality that foster creative processes. We aim to enable people to experience, discuss, and alter their own co-creation results on and off-site. We are using a setting in which a touch table is synchronized with virtual and augmented reality applications. This enables new collaborative planning possibilities. Ideas can be developed and edited off and on site directly. Tasks, such in our case, the design of a park, can be discussed, implemented, changed, and experienced together. The workshop starts at a touch table where people can make themselves familiar with the site and the task. Different kind of background information and visualization can be included. Here you start as a group to discuss your ideas like planting trees or creating pathways. In the second part of the workshop, a part of the group switch into virtual reality, the exact same scenery you already experienced on the touch table. In a multi-user mode, you can make changes, discuss alterations, and change immediately what you have in mind. The touch table is still synchronized and shows all the alterations in real time. The next step would be that you can visit the park on your own or with a group of friends and check out the design you made on the augmented reality app on your mobile phone on site. In this AR on-site mode, you have the chance to make alterations that will be included in the planning process as well. After finalizing the prototyping phase for the touch table and the virtual reality application, we start with multi-user stakeholder workshops. The final step will be the development of the augmented reality application by the end of 2023.
Okay. Yeah, just you know that already, this kind of system, how that technology would or should look like. And I'm happy that also Patrick is here, is one of my team members. He's somewhere in the dark here, but he will be with us, and he did a lot of the database questions. So if you have any technical questions, you could address him exactly, then also maybe later on. And but today we do not want to talk a little too much on the technologies on that, what we can. And I know that, yes, with AR and VR, there are a lot of in the construction and architecture and urbanizations is used, and a lot of problems are there. And there are, we can stick with technology a lot into that. But if that technology is the answer that we now have here, then the question is, what was the question? And one of the question that we started with and that we're still dealing and that we want to take care of is this question here. And this that we still do not know if it's really like that. If these fancy tools that we have, are they really helping us with decisions and eye-level discussions? Is this something that we are going, that helps us, that opens up new possibilities? And why is it important? And we somehow took a book out back from the quite an old one now, but still very important for us. And thinking about this kind of right of this kind of a kind of a human or human rights to make and to change ourselves by changing the city, as David Harvey posted it. And we still are asking ourselves, is these digital tools and these digital co-creative tools are the answers to do that? We have to say we do not really know, but we are starting to building it up, and we see that people are liking it. People are liking, of course, they are very much used with the touch table. We were in a fair in the last week, and we saw that a lot of people came to visit it and to use it and to use it on the fair. We did also then tested the collaboration in the VR that I'm going to show you in a second, and we did not yet test, or we did test in some other parts, the AR thing, but how that is really helping us and how that is going to give us new knowledge together, that's still on the question. And the question that we have, of course, also is that when we use these tools and the scenario builders, this kind of presentations and gameful, playful things, does this really help us to find better solutions, or is this knowledge? Do we produce new knowledge that helps us for better solutions? A big question that we have also is what kind of graphic or visual or aesthetic language do we choose? And we see already that this is something that we find out quite soon, that normal maps are quite difficult to read. Simulations, like on the right side, is easier. Photorealistic is even easier, but sometimes it also needs a kind of a less real visualization to find something. And yes, this is the AR that we're going to check in. And we still want to discuss also on open up the question also for the round. Then the discussion is what kind of visual and non-visual language do we need to change and to find solution for these needs. I give you some videos also from the for the last 2 minutes. What looks in the VR that is quite new now. So what you can see is that Ilke again is in a VR situation. We see it from the screen down there, and it is, you are at least in the situation on eye level, and this helps you to imagine how the future could look like much better. This is something that we know already from different things. And what we now opened in or put in is that you can with this tool you can plant trees, or you can build furniture, or do some things in that. We'll see that here. Is this working? Yes, here it is. So you can take one of the tree here, plant. She chooses, and then she takes. I know she takes a container now. She wants to build a container, and she puts a container in that, and you can put it on spot and turn it around and make it smaller or bigger and turn it around. And in the last one, you can see how we work together, that there are two persons at the same moment in the same situation, and they even can be, of course, not in the same physical location, but now in the virtual location they are in the same one, and they are talking together also through the headphones, how they want to plant it and how they want to design this part. And this now works that you can do it in the VR, and we synchronize it to the touch table so that other people on the touch table also can see it, and they can discuss, and the other person can touch this object and turn it around, or fulfill it, or do something else on that. Okay. Wait, I have to check that first. Okay, I think that's it for from the PaKOMM part, and we also have some questions that we will put and discuss in the Miro board. What I need to give you now for the next round, what we go is that we will jump into 3 breakout rooms. So you have for each of the project, you have one space, and we have in each project, we have then 2 questions that we want to discuss, and we want to ask you to discuss with us and give us some questions. And as it is a workshop, meaning for working there, and we are in this collaboration mode that we collaborate together. So you will have the room number 1, what is PaKOMM, the room number 2, what is Cosi, and the room number 4, what is, no, sorry, room number 2 that is cut, and room number 3 that is Cosi. You will see it, and you just can jump into that, and that will give us about 10 to 12 minutes, and we come back and then we do a second round of it. Okay, have fun.
Do we put ourselves in breakout rooms or do we go automatically?
I believe you have to put yourself in the breakout group.
Yeah, so if you're
Okay.
not in yet, guys, you want to go and click on participants. And then just underneath participants, you'll see a dot that says show all breakout sessions. And then when you click that, you can click join and jump into those breakout rooms. So again, to get in there, click on participants at the bottom of your screen. Then underneath participants, click on show all breakout sessions.
That helps. Yes. Okay. Good. You can try to open the mirror chat at the other side, and if you want, you can also open your camera so that we can see each other. And there is one sheet that is called with PaKOMM, the number 1. And there are 2 questions. So one question is, how can the digital co-creativity tools help to get eye-level discussions? And there's some other questions on that. Are AR and VR helpful? What are your experiences? What are your ideas? Are analog tools a better choice? And there's the second question. Might a new setting that also allows creative future scenario planning be a door opener for better solutions? So if you're looking into future and this kind of settings that we can really work together, does this really help for us, or is this the end of expertises and experts? And is this, shall we leave the field to the experts? These are the main questions that we propose and that we would like to have some answers of you in it. So please open all your microphones, and if you have ideas, just talk. I'm not going to moderate that. I mean, you also can have other questions or other topics and proposals. Do you have experience with virtual reality? Questions, topics?
I have a little bit experience on that from the last 2 years as a practitioner for stakeholder participation in Kiel. And we try to work on that topic with the Muthesius Art School of Kiel and try some experiments on that, especially when it comes to youth participation. It works really well on the topic of public space design, but it mostly depends on the question we ask. So we try to let them design special situations with things like trees and banks and playing fields and something like that. And that does not work that well. But what worked really good was to ask them to define different situations they like to have there. So more like, how should it feel there? How should it, what do you want to do there? And then we try to design different situations and virtual reality and augmented reality to put into this, but not this like what kind of bank or what kind of seats do you want there, or what kind of playing situation do you want there? More like, what do you want to do there? When do you want to be there? With whom do you want to stay there? And how it should feel for you. So it was more on the questions we ask.
Okay, thank you. How was the visual language that you used there? How important was that? Was it a kind of a photorealistic scenario? Was it a painted scenario?
It was a on-site situation. So with augmented reality on site, we tried to have the combination of photorealistic combined with drawings for the first step here.
Thank you. Any other experiences? I see there is a lot of probably students or members from Taipei Tech. Somebody, how is it in Taipei? Are you using virtual reality lenses and Googles all the time? Hello?
Hi there.
Hi.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
I have a little question about the AR part of your project. Have you ever considered point out the cultural heritage sites for your urban planning? That is to say, users can learn about the cultural heritages or historic sightseeing in your city, and they can experience some AR play games in the real world.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, there are some projects that we know from colleagues who do that. What is important? What we like to use the AR for is that you transport the situation that you made in the workshop into the real space for actually a future scenario, so that you can see on spot what you planned on the workshop. Do you have any experience with something like that?
Actually, I carried out a project by myself. That is, I designed a small demo for a cultural site in my city, China, Guangzhou, and I use some AR 3D models to show a special folk festival content in the real environment of the city's central cultural park. I wonder if you guys can collaborate with some local residents to collect some cultural memories of the city and embed it into your urban planning tools. Then I think it will make the urban planning process more engaging and fun.
Okay, thank you. A good hint. Who else? Somebody maybe can have a hint for us, or a doubt. Do you doubt that it helped? What do you think? Does this help, this for collaboration, this kind of technological tool set. Yes, please.
I think that the comment from Shirley Liu was really excellent because she somehow addressed the methodology behind the use of IR for these kind of participatory projects. Are we focusing on like just giving a vision of a physical transformation of a certain space or a certain neighborhood, or are we also trying to somehow dive into the not very obvious situation or the hidden potential or hidden realities of the site? So which kind of level do we need to address with the use of AR technology for participation? Are we going to show the participants a future image of the potential of the site, or are we also trying to visualize things that aren't that obvious, or things that are already there but might be emphasized or might be included into a discussion about the future transformation of a site? So I think this was an excellent comment from our colleague.
Thank you. Yes. Wow, that's a brutal, like always.
Yeah, that was a hard cut.
Yes, hard cut coming back. So this was the first 10 minutes round. It is quite a short time. And as we see, we have some more time we can jump in again to continue the conversation. I just wanted to have us all back to give us a rest and to see that time is going on and that we now have 30 minutes all in all. So I would suppose that we go into other breakout rooms again for maybe this time 15 minutes. If you could change the countdown to 15 minutes, that would be nice. Freya, you're doing that, right? And you can choose again to which project you want to have maybe questions or you want to add something and you want to go into there. Thank you. So we will jump in again for another breakout rooms and you can choose yourself again the groups and we will try to continue, and after 15 minutes we come back and maybe we find something that we can to share in groups again then also. So have fun. Some of the same faces, that's nice. Patrick, if you want to say something, you're very welcome. Okay. Maybe we can start here again. I just also want to mention that also Patrick Postert is here, my colleague who did some of the work in the database and is from the Geoinformatic Institute that does together with the CSL and the third party is also doing a lot of the work here. So that somebody has a contribution to this question. Xiang, you wanted to say something?
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Hi,
please.
and yeah, I have a question about the VR technical, and we see in this videos that we can see with our eyes how this change is going on, but we cannot touch them and feel them. You know, we sometimes I'm an architecture student, and sometimes we design something, and we will build a model, and we can touch them and feel the distance of the buildings or streets. So I was wondering that if there can be maybe a connection between the VR and the real model in these studies. Thank you.
Wow, that's a good hint and another technological challenge how to do that. How could we do that with some technical vests or something like that, or you mean just a measurement of the distance? How do you think about that? What do you think? You want to know the numbers of the measure, or you want to feel it?
Just feel the distance. Maybe there's a connection between the VR and the model in the real world. Like if I change the modeling in the real world, I can see in this VR glasses right away and make some next change to this.
Ah, now I understand. Yes, this is working. Yes. So if you have the model on the touch table, you can change there you can change the positions of the objects, and it changes automatically at the same time in the VR world as well, and in the AR world as well. It should then also be. So if you are on spot, then you feel that somebody is moving the trees or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or ideas? What would you, if you have, I have questions for you, I was. What would you like to do if you have this kind of tool set? So there's one proposal was this measurements, but anything else that you would like to do? Yes.
Yes, and I think this technology can be used to maybe to promote some future design to the public. I think maybe if there's a change in the public space and I want the citizens to accept it, and I could just maybe use this to let the citizens to experience the change of the community, and they can give their suggestions to this. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe as an add-on to this, it would be also interesting to see the hi, Emmanuel.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, nice to see you guys. So I was just thinking of making change visible as well over time. So when we start collecting VR plans that are might be implemented by the city herself, I don't know. And then you can go through the years, for example, maybe in 20 years, and you can say, okay, I want to see the state of Hamburg in VR in 2020 or in 2025. And you can go through the stages, and you can see also the upcoming projects, maybe in a different color, or maybe just ideas and not fixed projects. So kind of the thing that Cityscaper is doing. I don't know if you heard of it's a very small startup, Cityscaper. They are trying to do that as well and cooperating with Leipzig. So that's a very interesting thing as well. They want to put QR codes, for example, on bridges when there's supposed to be a new bridge, so you can scan the QR code and you see on your phone what it's going to look like, where you stand in a few months or in a year or something. So also using that and connecting that with the real world and the real places, I think that's a really high potential, because you get aware of something's going to happen when you are at the place, and not over media or something, but really on the place. So you are also getting to the people that are interested in this place because they are there already. So that's a really high potential, I think.
Yes, thank you. And my question also would maybe leads to more open, like, do you think that it is important, that's maybe the second question also that I put on the Miro board, that it is important to have this co-creation with the people who are not the architects, who are not the experts, like the people on the ground, the neighbors, the children, the users, the future users, that they do not only get informed what has been or how it will look like, but they are also asked to collaborate in the design. What do you think about that? Please, anybody.
Yeah, I think it's a very playful way to participate. And I could imagine also scenarios or simulations as, for example, as a citizen, and you can put a building in the open space. Then with the building there come, I don't know, 1 bike per person just in front of the building immediately, and you have to find spaces for the bikes or for the cars, or for every 20 people need a bus stop, or I don't know, something like that. So that you see implications as well from what you're doing, or you see if you plant a tree that the air quality is better in this way or that way, and that would be great if, and I think that would make the system of the city more understandable as well, because everything works as a system.
Yeah.
Hi, I just wondering, it's very important to use the digital twin. I mean, the urban twin to make our building environment more safety, right? More safer for most citizens. So I'm an international student in London, and you know there's a high crime rate in London, and so many researchers want to figure out where is the most unsafe place for most citizens, and like for psychologists, they make an app maybe called urban living to make to allows most citizens to collaborate in this project by crowdsourcing, by putting the image of the environment of the place, which where they think this place is quite unsafe for them from psychology. And I think if we can put the image into the digital twin, it must be more clear, and I think it will help us more. It will help for the security, people's security, right? Not only for the crime, but also for the road traffic accidents, especially in some narrow roads or some intersections, right? That's my view.
Thank you, Kayang. That's a good hint that maybe also we can, if you cannot really design it, we can collect maybe images and put that on that.
Thank you.
No, Benjamin, do you have something to share here? Maybe.
Actually, I have one question which is more technical. Is about the diffusion of those tools. If you are able to use, I don't know, for example, some open source methodology on the software side, and how do you deal with the hardware? Because I guess one of the drawback of those technologies is how you share it to some people, and to share it you also need the hardware. So I don't know if there are any updates on that.
Yeah, this research project at the moment is a good question. It's very hardware heavy, so it needs if it's together, then it needs a touch table and VR goggles, and then the third part, of course, will be the AR tool that is only software based, and you can use it on your device. And if we have still time, then we will do also web-based possibility to go there. But to the other one, the VR and the touch table, we will provide with a guided and a guided workshop. So that tool will be at some place. We put it somewhere that you can travel it there, and you can put it there, and also you can rent this Oculus, normal Oculus. It will be, you can just put it there. You can rent it. And but it is yes. If you
So
have the whole
it's one. The idea would be to have one installation that the session will end. Okay, one installation that you can move to different places.
Yeah, you can have it. It is really synced over the air, so you can. It's on a server. Patrick, you tell me if it's wrong, but you can have 5 different ones at the same time, and you can have different sessions at the same time, and even take the session from place A to place B, and try to work on that, to continue to work on that. This is do I lie, Patrick, or is this a reality?
No, this is reality, and it's somehow, yeah, you can experience everything off-site as well on arbitrary places. You just need some Wi-Fi. This is somehow the vision, that you don't have to meet, you just meet virtually and then co-create together at different places or together at the same place. It's somehow the freedom, yeah, we dream about with this tool.
So last minute for Benjamin. No? Somebody else? Take it if you want.
I think we have 15 seconds, is that correct?
Yes, go.
I wonder if we're not gamifying this enough. I wonder if it's sexy enough. Have you ever thought of piggybacking off platforms like Minecraft in order to get more participation online?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I don't know. This is really the first steps on the prototype, so we don't know if it's how we have to improve, and we will do testings on that, of course. And there will be some gamification on that, and we will maybe put some more gamification in the AR tool into that, and we will check how that works and how we have to improve. It is not a finalized tool that we are going to sell. It's really the base of the research. But yes, it's of course, a good hint. So we are going to, but if you have ideas on that, Benjamin, you can let us know.
Do you know if there's a cooperation planned with the connected twins? So using same databases or something?
Yes, we are planning actually all these tools that we are doing in Hamburg. We want to somehow to make it compatible, that we can share it to the other ones. And this is planned to use. There's not yet fixed, but we just are going to show them now, and then we are going to use them there.
Welcome back, everyone.
Hey, again, the power of technology and time. So, dear co-hosts and dear visitors and dear everybody, we have now, I think, 10 to 12 more minutes to go. And this is completely open now. So if we have collected some on the Miro board, questions and topics. So in my workshop, a lot of quite interesting things came together. And I'm also curious to hear some other things. So we can choose now. I did not really organize that now. If you want to bring back what you thought, or your other questions that you want to bring it here, or if somebody had one question to another project who was not there, or somebody wants just to give some ideas or some feedback or talk about the weather or whatever. That's the point to do it now.
It is rainy here. No. Very good conversations, by the way. Like, congratulations for the workshops. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that quickly as well. Like, I think we had two small groups, but in the cut floor, but it was very useful, and we had good conversations, good connections. Luis, I didn't see you, unfortunately, but I mean I wasn't meant to move around. Hopefully to see you in another workshop.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I wish I could split in 3, but no, it was pretty good.
Yeah. If you come to us, we would have created a twin of you. Then you could at least you were 2. Then at least.
Okay. Anything else somebody wants to share or to?
I would like to know if you got new insights in the discussions in the breaking rooms. So this is a question for the Hamburg team. Did you get inspiration, new cases, new ideas for data sets, data combinations, something like that?
My answer is yes. Do you want to know which one?
Sure.
So I think we got at least 2 or 3 good hints. So one hint is to say that to think about to implement also the past in that kind of the PaKOMM thing, not only the future, but also that we can see what is maybe the cultural heritage in this kind of system, what I think is very interesting. Another one was a hint or a question or remark of if that what you have, is that gameful enough, or is it sexy enough, or is it just heavy and boring? And the third one was the question about the infrastructure, if the infrastructure is maybe the physical infrastructure is too much. And then we got a hint that there was another experiment done with the VR collaboration, co-creativity that somehow that it's depending very much on how you pose the question and how you ask the question. And the more specific you ask the question, then the better maybe are the results in that also. What about the other ones?
Yes, same with Cosi. So we have some ideas, inspirations, and insights. We talked about affordable housing in different areas, how this could be shown, or we also talked about different zonings, how cities are organized and zoned, and how we can work with this. This is something that's a thought that we had when we think of transferring Cosi to somewhere else. So we really need to think about this. And the last thing I have in mind now is we talked about non-physical barriers. So how can we show this in the data sets when there's something in the way? And I think this really relates to what the CAT team is thinking about, this mobilities of care. And we have some inspirations there on how we can, or maybe see that we need to connect some tools to make this visible. There's something that I take from the breakouts.
That was also mentioned, by the way, that we should bring these tools together.
Yeah, especially that we need a mode for collecting non-quantitative or
less statistically graspable data, that we need this way of making qualitative data more visible in our, or in Cosi at least.
Yeah, that's actually also something that was a good point in our breakout session, the CUP breakout session. And it's very much related to what Emmanuel, what you just mentioned, that history matters, and that also historical points or the data about certain places could be represented in such a twin environment. That was one point that we discussed. Also how we could include sentiments of the community with social media, and also that kind of qualitative data into the digital representation, to not only have the mobility flows, but to also have all the things that capture social life within the city.
Quite a lot. Thank you very much, all of you. Do you have any other things that you want to share, or questions more like that? Anybody?
So,
I mean, yeah, please.
One question is how can you escalate these tools? I think that was a little bit in the back of the head of everyone. Like, fortunately, the summit is about hyper-local solutions for global challenges. So I think these tools are very good for that. But the challenge that we have with the Cityscope, and I think is the same with the tools that are emerging at Hamburg, is how can we make, like next step, like global, how can we escalate this? The access to data is always kind of complex. For some of the tools, it's okay because maybe you have the virtual environment, you can plant trees, etc., and you more or less know how that is going to impact in different cities. But there are other kind of data that are very complex. And so first of all, what is the entry point for you when you try to escalate this in another city? And the second is what kind of data are the minimum for this kind of tools? And that's one. I mean, I am just putting this question because it's the same that we have at the Cityscope. We try to work with open data, etc. But I think that's and also with the project that you have with United Nations, I think building your own data. I think all that kind of things are very cool, and it could be very interesting to explore.
Maybe Giza, this is really a question to you also, to have the not because of the data, but more from a philosophical way of how you also want to share the tools that we develop in Hamburg then to other places. Or maybe it's even a question and an answer.
Yeah, I mean, in general, of course, we are trying to scale them up all projects we have here. So the digital participation system is now transferred to other cities in Germany. And this is because of data laws. It's not so easy to transfer them to other European cities because they have different legal constructions. And Cosi is now also transferred to Berlin, for example. And of course, we use it also for the UN projects. But I mean, as you know, sometimes it's difficult because the data situation is so difficult. What we realized, for example, now in South Africa, in our project in Durban it's in Brazil, sorry, it's in Alagoas, that they collected data in informal settlements, but those data is not georeferenced. So then it doesn't make sense for us because we do work a lot with mapping. And so I think there's a lot of data work that has to be done before we start to put them to our tools. And this is time and money, of course, to get the data into that quality that we can really work with this. But of course, our idea is always to use it. And maybe, Daniel, you can explain this better with Cosi, to transfer this also to other countries and also to scale them up, of course.
Yeah, in terms of Cosi, it is actually, as we already pointed out in our presentation, we try to be very conformative with global standards. So we use data standards that work everywhere, and we try to be as data agnostic as possible so that we can basically set up a Cosi for, let's say, Guadalajara, even if it's just with a limited number of data sets within a day. So it's really, I mean, obviously there's data curation involved. We need to see what would be the equivalent for the administrative borders and stuff like that. How do we match certain statistical values to the places? But in general, this works out of the box. But yes, obviously, as you said it, georeferencing data is a key aspect. I mean, the only way around it that we have is, as you said, that we can like link data to an area rather than to a point. So we can say, okay, within this community, we find a certain set of data and indicators. But yeah, the data collection, as we said before, right, is also establishing ways of collecting data that is not available from the authorities is something that is a key aspect of transfer.
Okay.
Was this an answer to you, Luis?
He says yes.
Or maybe
I say yes.
Please give a thumbs
maybe
up.
could you give us some insights from your perspective? I mean, this was a question because you struggled, or the challenges are the same for you when you go abroad with your projects. How is your experience in this?
Yeah, no, totally. It's a huge challenge. That's why we have people like Alex working with synthetic data. That's also like why most of the tools that we have, for instance, Ronan, when he's building the modules, he's working with open source data, etc. But even with that, then we go to Guadalajara, Mexico, and we realize that we have no data. So, or we have let's say the formal data, but for the informal people, we have no data. And then the entry point in some places, like for instance in Cairo, Marcus can talk about that. We have the entry point with the government, they have the funding, but accessing to the data is the bottleneck, for instance. So we are facing this challenge of how can we escalate the tool, and there are many different bottlenecks, but usually this is the data usually is one of the main kind of challenges, and that's I think we are facing the same challenges, and that's why I mean we are always happy to learn from you, because you are probably the most successful sister lab that we have in terms of like working with governments in many different scales. So I think we can learn a lot from you, and that was my question. It was just trying to learn.
It's quite, Emmanuel, one comment from my side, if I may. It's interesting working with the United Nations now, because you know that they very often work normatively, like they're writing guidelines for a lot of different things in the world. And one of the guidelines is now very often how to collect data, which is very simple in our case, because we all have this urban data management systems. They are already all collected, delivered in good quality. But if we really work in informal settlements in a broad range, then it's very often the case that we need data collected in a special way. And this is what we are doing in regard of this Brazil project, now that we are kind of writing guidelines for how to collect data georeferenced.
That's pretty cool. If you could share that with us, that's gonna help. I mean, if we can be involved somehow, like that could be cool.
It's in the making, yes.
But I think also there's maybe there's another way, just as a conceptual way, is there's of course the ways how to get the data, and there must be the data and how to get there, but maybe we also can think about, I don't know how to exactly to work with tools where this data is maybe not so necessary. So can we also develop tools that can be helpful, that where these exact data are not needed so much? It is really conceptual thinking, not so much on the floor.
But that's why we have Agno also. Like you can build agent-based modeling where you give like behavior to the agents, but even with that you need some kind of data, isn't it? I mean, you need to know, you need to have knowledge. So maybe it's not data, but it's like learning from the community, or and then you can build an agent-based model. But we have experience in Shanghai. We cannot access to the data directly, so we help with agent-based modeling, etc., etc. So there are tools, but I think it's still something that we have to keep working on that. But you are totally right.
Okay, I got the duty now I have the duty and the honor to thank you all of my team to present that, but also all of you to have visited us and shared your knowledge and your ideas with us and spent this time with us. And I wish you all the best for your workshops, and we will come to see your workshops and be there. And we wish you a good evening, morning, afternoon, whatever you want to do. And thank you very much for having you with us. Bye-bye.